of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you will, please remain standing. We're honored to have Reverend Khalil Parker from Liberty Hill Missionary Baptist Church here tonight to share the invocation. Reverend Parker.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. I want to share, if you listen to these words by way of devotion from Philippians chapter 4, verse 6 and 7. It says, "Do not be anxious or worried about anything, but in everything by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, continue to make your requests known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses your understanding, will guard your heart and it will guard your mind in Christ Jesus." I raise these words because I hope they can serve as some form of encouragement. Life can be full of stresses and troubles, and some we can plan for and some we cannot plan for. But the scripture reminds us here that in Christ we don't have to worry, we don't have to stress, we don't have to be anxious about anything because He's in control of everything. And it tells us to choose to be thankful rather than to choose to be stressful. Growing up, I was told that please and thank you will take you a very long way in life. And I found that to be true both in natural things and in spiritual things. So I hope you find encouragement in that tonight, that we don't have to worry, we don't have to be anxious, but in everything that we're thankful that Christ will take care of us in all things. Let us pray. Eternal God, we thank you for this time. Thank you for this day that you have given us. We're grateful to be alive. Thank you, God, for this community that you let us work in, that you let us live in, that you let us lead, called the Village of Wesley Chapel. Now, God, I pray that you'll be with us tonight as we work through and we lead this community. And I pray, God, that you will help us to have thanksgiving in our hearts. That if we're worried about anything, that if we're stressed about anything, I pray, God, that your peace now will help us to get through all the cares of life. We thank you and we trust you for what you're doing in this community and in this council. We give your name praise and glory. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Reverend Parker.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone signed up for public comment?
Yeah, John.
All right, Mr. Granger, you'll approach the podium, state your name and address, please.
John Leckie, 5503 Silver Creek Drive, Chapel. Just wanted to share with Council a rather unusual request I received at the park today, so that you might consider adding it to a very brief discussion of the request on the agenda tonight, so you can give me some guidance as to how to respond. So the request came from a neighbour of the park, the neighbourhood that's next to it. The lady described her 21-year-old son as having a high-functioning autism. He is signed up for some vocational training later in the year, but she'd like to see him physically and mentally engaged in some kind of activity. So her request was, can we find some work for him to do at the park? She will pay him a salary, but she wants him to be out of the house and mentally and physically engaged in some kind of work. So the request was, can he come out to the park and provide assistance for me when I'm there, so he's out using his mind and his body, doing something useful. So if you can please think about adding something on the agenda to consider that request and let me know how I should respond.
All right, additions, deletions, and adoption of agenda.
You have to add one item, please. Can add it after the closed section 9B. It's the volunteer fire department update /photos.
Okay. So we can add in John's comment in item 7. Anything else?
I'll make a motion to accept it with the 2 changes.
Second.
Thank further discussion? All in favor? Unanimous? All right, that brings us to our consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the items on our consent agenda? Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I've got one question.
Sure.
What is TA 2022-03?
Text amendments, the ones that Bob talked about last month with the planning board. It was in the email trail sent today. About changes to the permitting process that he was talking about.
Okay.
So it's just calling for that public hearing.
Okay.
Are we expecting one?
No, he had a conflict in it.
Okay.
If you will not be here. And we were going to ask Michael.
I did ask him. I did not hear back from him.
So, any further discussion? All in favor? Okay, unanimous. That brings us to the planning report. Bob did send a rather detailed report to us. One thing he needs is a motion to continue moving forward with the comp plan implementation, a motion for planning, for him to direct planning board to move forward with the implementation of the comp plan recommendation, including examination of the village zoning map to determine the extent to which the map is inconsistent with the future land use map.
We do have that as item 10 also.
Well, we can say that till 10. His other reports, I know, George, you had a question about the property in the courtyards.
He emailed me about that today, and I hadn't looked at it or gotten back to him, but he got that in front of me.
They did review the text amendment that we're going to review next month and have a public hearing for. Planning board did make a motion to direct council. They had a concern about member attendance. Trying to word it. They have a member who hasn't attended a meeting
Since February, and when I went, they asked me to go back and look, and that member has only attended twice in the last 12 meetings.
2 times over the past year.
Out of 13 months, because they don't meet in December, so I looked at 12 meetings, yeah.
Did you contact and say, give them a reason or excuses?
There's been a variety. And I had asked him if he wanted to stay on the board, and he said yes. And I said, well, I'll see you at the meeting. And then he said, oh, I won't be at that meeting.
Okay. So we've had dialogue going with the member, just no attendance.
Yeah, and the board was concerned. They felt that the members should be active. In fact, we have a member here tonight.
I think part of the concern is with the planning board, if you do not regularly attend, you are really out of the loop, especially over the past year with the comp plan and how rapidly things change. So there are a couple ideas, if I'm remembering correctly. Sherry can correct me if I'm wrong, but one was to move him to an alternate position. Correct. One was to remove him from the board. So planning board did not feel comfortable making a decision as the board serves at the pleasure of council. So they wanted us to talk about it and decide.
Well, I think an alternate makes a lot more sense, so that it frees up space for someone who's actually going to attend the meetings and be there on a regular basis.
I would suggest they become the third alternate, not the first alternate.
All the alternates rotate.
No, not if they get promoted to the full board. It's an order in which they became alternates.
Right, but if the board is short one person,
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about if we lose a member totally, then the first alternate and tenure goes up to full board. And I'm saying this person should be the third one.
I wasn't aware that that's how the promotion went.
They did discuss that whole idea, and Sherry, correct me if I'm wrong, they decided they really didn't think anyone who could only come 2 times a year should even be an alternate. Is that right?
Right. The question was whether he was truly invested or not. I mean, as to your point, there's been a lot of discussion on some important topics, and even if you miss 1 or 2 meetings, you're missing a lot of points. So then you're seated before any of the alternates that have been listening to what's been going on. So obviously, you handle it how you will. It's just the concern.
I was just going by the fact that he said he still wanted to be on the board. We're making the 3rd alternate. Then, yes, he may rotate up to sit on the board, but he's never there. So that's probably the person's probably not, that's not going to happen. But then it allows others to step up to fill open board seats for the company. And I'm also okay if we just totally get rid of them where the person did express interest in remaining on the board.
Well, we have a hard time finding people that want to volunteer their time to, they get paid, but still that want to be involved and actively involved in the community. I would hate to turn anybody who wants to be involved away. At the same time, I get the point of, well, if you're not going to show up, you can't be a productive member.
And I don't know, is it feasible to move him to alternate with, if you don't start attending or removed? I mean, he has been on the planning board for a long time, so I hate to.
His attendance, though, has never been regular, ever.
Maybe that's it. Maybe we make him an alternate for a period of time, and then if there's still no attendance, we just say, well, we're just going to have to.
I think so. And I agree, make it 3rd alternate instead of 1st alternate. We'll give other people a chance to move up quicker. Yeah.
Somebody's moving up immediately.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Who's the next person to move up?
Trying to think, we've had so much moving around on that board.
It'd be Richard Stevens. Richard Stevens is
He's
the
already
next
moved
one.
up, isn't he? Is it Richard Stevens?
It's Richard.
Carl's moved up.
So that's Richard.
Richard, and then.
And
Yeah, I guess
Bill and Sandra.
William and Sandra. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, I mean, as someone who's been kicked off the committee, it doesn't feel good. It's not really hate, so.
Only her for a short period of time.
But, I mean, give him a break. And if he doesn't attend in 6 months. And maybe we'll.
I think our charter or the rules say like 3 if he misses 3 meetings.
All right, 3 meetings. So at the next planning board meeting, how about we put on the agenda for them to review their attendance policy and make a note that it will be enforced.
You probably should make a motion, since every time we appoint to planning board, there's a motion. The last time he was appointed to a regular term, so you should probably.
So I make a motion. Do I need to use his name?
Probably.
You should, yes.
Yeah. Do it.
Yes, yeah.
Make a motion for us to remove Vince Guerin from the planning board and make him the 3rd alternate, and set expectation with him that with no attendance at the next 3 meetings, then he would be asked to, he would be removed from being an alternate.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Okay.
And then we need to do anything.
And then we need to move up Richard, right? So we need a motion to move up Richard.
So motion.
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay. All in favor, unanimous. All right. Any further questions about planning and zoning? I was happy to see that the stalled coffee shop project is moving ahead again. It's exciting. Maybe
The item that's stuck with that I got mine was there's another thing.
that's where the roundabout's going, which is interesting. All right, any further questions about planning? All right, then let's go on to the
Okay. So you have you have the July financial reports, and during the month of July, I made a budget amendment. I moved $360 into law enforcement from contingency, and I moved $100 into park and rec trash services and took that from water sewer. And that was to cover bills that are higher. So I'm sorry, you have the August reports. I said July. Don't believe there's anything out of the ordinary. We still are at the early part of the year. We did finish paying for the comprehensive plan contract. We made the final payment on the last dam project, the one with Labella, that contract. So we're done paying for that.
So the well is completely paid up as far as the dam?
Mm-hmm, yeah. And we've had problems. Amy's computer has not been working well, and that was the one that I had originally put in the budget for this year to add a computer. So we got to an estimate for a tower or for a laptop from the person who does our computer services, and then I also they were HP products. I went and got quotes on the HP website for those. The ones that ASDF, they are refurbished computers, and it also includes the labor to configure the PC and move over the information.
So the ones from our usual vendor are refurbished at that price.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the price from the HP side?
Well, like on the tower one, it would be almost $1,700 for the tower, and it would be $1,600 plus the $520, so it would be over $2,100 if we got the brand new. And for the laptop, the refurbished is $2,280. He did say we don't have to have that docking station. You could take that out for $100. And if you got it brand new, it would be about $25. It'd be over $3,000.
Sure, what happened to Robin's old computer?
Vaughn has it. It's the planner's computer.
I think a laptop would be more convenient than a tower.
I agree. I mean, most many companies nowadays are with laptops for many reasons. I think the price still seems excessive to me from that, but I know all the prices have gone up.
Yeah, but you can get a Mac for those prices.
But it wouldn't work with any of our computers because none of us are on Macs.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying this is a lot of money for
It is, but this is not a home computer. This is a business computer, and it will last.
And that for some reason has been the problem with Amy, is it's running like a home computer and it can't keep up with.
So
I don't know if the network or something.
it comes down to the RAM. What is the processing speed that the machine is at? And you do need that higher processing machine in order to run multiple apps and have multiple windows open at a time.
That makes sense.
Then the thing is that you're not using any applications. I can't imagine using any applications that are very intensive. But if you're using some applications and you don't routinely close your PC or reboot it or clear your cache and everything, it will bog down. So there's an ongoing maintenance aspect you need to monitor, and that's something easily you can check. But I think if you get the right amount of processing speed, she'll be fine.
What did they? I'm sorry,
When
when was
it
this?
quoted, is reasonable. The 16 gig is more than reasonable. Software developers get 16 gigs. it does not need a machine that powerful. So that will more than
She's pulling CAD files or something like that.
She doesn't. She doesn't. No. I mean, but, you know, she does the Park and Rec minutes. She does, you know, people send her permits and she scans them and sends them back, but, you know, it's just kind of email and...
What kind of warranty comes with these? I mean, are they going to be warranties? If it's used? Is that whatever?
I see here, well, no. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
And I don't think she needs a docking station, that's convenience, but if anything, I would suggest buying, you know, the power cord, one that she can carry with her laptop, and when she goes home, it stays plugged in the office. When she comes back, she just has to plug it in. And you can get a little box to plug in multiple accessories if you need to. It would be much more useful, I think. And then she's also got on here 512 gigabyte of storage. I don't think that much storage is needed. It's nice to have, but if everything she's doing needs to be stored for the village, it can be stored out there on the OneDrive. Use cloud storage. Might reduce the cost a little bit, but not too much.
So we've got 1,700 in the budget now?
No, we don't have anything in the
Well,
budget.
anything in the budget.
Yeah.
Also took that out of the budget. They had asked us to go into that. Anybody want to make a motion?
Sure, I'll do something.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion that we purchase a laptop. I'm going to say along with the docking station because I feel like that, especially if she's pulling an external monitor, that it would save her from having to hook that up each time. And we're only talking about $99.
I don't think she has an external monitor.
Okay, with the scratch docking station. Let me restate my motion. And I'll make a motion that we purchase the laptop for the administrative assistant months the docking station.
And was that the refurbished or the brand new?
Refurbished.
Okay.
69. A second?
Any further discussion? All in favor? And then I think we need a motion to move the money right now.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that.
Oh, you,
No, I voted no.
we had 3 yeses and 1 no. Laura was a nay.
3 to 1, okay.
I think it should be refurbished unit for that price.
Did you hear that, Cheryl? She thinks it should be a new one, not a refurbished one for that price.
Well, I don't know where we'd get it at that price. No.
I have to look at the computer because that's not, I'm going to be fine.
So we need a motion to move the money from contingency.
I have a question. The 1,600 is for a tower. The 2,000 is for a laptop. Are we doing a laptop? Okay.
You're right. It's,
1550 is for the laptop itself,
Okay.
and then 520 for labor.
Okay.
but are you? All right.
But we're doing a laptop.
But we need a motion to move 2,100 from contingency,
Well, 2,200.
2,200,
2280.
2,280 from contingency. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second it, but with the
Discuss.
question, yeah. We really don't have any other.
There's no extra wiggle room.
Yeah. Okay. Then I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All in favor? All right, unanimous. Okay, Sheriff, we want to talk about the financial and internal control policy.
Yes. Trying to close in on this ARP, and the last thing we needed was financial and internal control policies. So I went through and wrote it and rewrote it and rewrote it, and this is where we're at. It's something that certainly will be changed over time, but
But we have to have one to move forward.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I just have a question. For the amounts, the $500 and the $1,000 amounts, When were are those legislatively set? Or
No.
were those set by the village, and when were they set?
By the village.
And when did we decide?
I think the last update was like 2018.
Because what I'm thinking about is just kind of like the inflationary pressure, depending on whenever that was set.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if it was 20 years ago, it'd be more like $1,900 now, then
Mm-hmm.
just making sure we weren't keeping the limit so low that it just became more of an administrative.
It's whatever you all want, you know.
That's what I was just asking when they were set.
I mean, it's fine with me if I don't have to get 3 bids for something.
But again, let's get us started, and if we need to adjust that, we can.
Mm-hmm.
I
Definitely.
don't know when it was set before.
Any questions for Cheryl? Is there a motion?
A motion that we approve the financial control policy.
Financial
And
management.
internal control policy.
That's like,
Any further discussion? All in favor? Unanimous?
Okay, and then the next one is the big one. We're finally coming up with projects for our ARP money. And this is a revision of the ordinance that was previously approved and previously revised. And we had never said what we would be doing. And since we now have the revenue replacement way to spend the money, this would reimburse us for expenditures that we've already spent, and on the law enforcement, it would go through March of 2023. I'm like into fiscal year, and I even asked a couple of people up at the league and the school of government, and the reason I have everything as March through March 31st of 2022 and 2023 is because that's how we're going to report it to them. So I had to pull myself away from the fiscal year and come up with the numbers. So the first one, the law enforcement services, and that number I didn't change. I made some minor changes in some of the other numbers. That is what we spent for Brandon for March 3rd, 2021 through March 31st, 2022. $104,595. So if you guys approve it, then I can go ahead and make journal entries to transfer the money, and that will be now available in general fund for whatever happens. I went ahead and did one for law enforcement for April 1st, 2022 through March 31st, 2023 of $110,397 because I know that's a fixed number. Next July, the number will undoubtedly change, so next, probably June, there would be a new budget amendment to appropriate for 2023 through 2024. But it's premature to do it since we don't have the amount. The next one is for the Park and Recreation Services, the salaries and benefits, and our employee didn't come on until like December, so it's not a whole lot of money, but I went through what the salaries were and the benefits, $5,400 and $413. Then I went through finance/admin services for March 3rd, 2021 through March 31st, 2022. That was for, at the beginning of that time, I was a finance officer and a clerk. It's 2 separate line items. And then I became, a combined number, and also for Amy's amounts. And that number changed slightly. I went through it this morning with a fresh look and revised a little bit. I had to do this backing out March 1st and 2nd. And I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but for like me, the March 1st was a council meeting, so it was like 15 hours and something. Then, it was probably 15 hours on Amy too for the 2 days. So the salaries there is $104,171, and the benefits is $37,590. So the unassigned total will be $195,060, which means we'll come up with more. Like when we do the deputy next year, that'll be $115,000 probably. So we'll be getting really close to using all of our money. So,
John, sure.
Yeah, that'll work then. That wasn't confusing at all. Y'all the fiscal years
yeah,
and contracts.
yeah. You get the point. I want to be done with it.
We need to move it before they change their minds.
There was a meeting today at noon, and yeah, somebody said, "Well, do you think they'll, don't you think they'll change the dates on it?" And she's like, I think they will, but I can't, and I can't tell you all that it will happen, but yeah."
Wow. We need to go ahead and do it before they change their minds.
We're set now. I still have a lot of paperwork to do and pulling everything and getting together a notebook for it all because we have to keep it through 2031. So.
Well, it's quite a headache. Thank you for taking the time. All right, so do we need a motion to amend it, and that will take care of everything?
George, let me just ask George. So this was the original ordinance, and that it was revised once, and now it's revised again, and mostly this is the part that's revised, but there's maybe one or two other things. So is this okay in the format?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess you would be approving ordinance 2021-10 revised as of today.
I'll make a motion that we accept the revisions to the grant project ordinance 2021-10.
Do we have a second? Second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Unanimous? All right, any further questions for Cheryl? All right, then let's call up Mr. Brian Horvath.
Brady, you do want a shirt under that one, right? Because every time I see you the last 3 weeks, you only wore that shirt.
You see me if there's an event going on, and last time it didn't have the lettering on it, and I wanted to do the demo, Okay,
I
so
think you're required to dress in things every week. When you
It
have
can happen.
something to look forward to, right?
I wear my Buzz Lightyear's costume last time. Why does Brad have a Buzz Lightyear? So, as far as the Park and Rec, I was doing a meeting talking about a lot of different events coming up. As far as the end of the summer jam, that went really well. We did have rain during it, but I don't think anybody left. We believe there was between 700 and 750. At one point, some people were allowed to come in and park in the regular parking spaces towards the end, because there were people just showing up at different points. So I think that's a very good attendance. The band was great. The Weddington High School band was there raising funds. They had a raffle, and the students showed up with their instruments. So when the band took a break, they went up and played a few numbers. So that was great. I don't know exactly how much they raised because they were using a QR code, etc. So, but they also selling tie-dye hats and what do they call those hats? I always forget what those are called. Bucket hats. I actually bought one. I don't know how many. If I thought it'd be too much.
Never too much.
So, but again, I think the event went well. The food vendor, I think, wasn't prepared enough. To be quite honest, to give you the downside, next year, if we do this event again, which I think we'd like to, we will have another food vendor, or two, just at one point. At one point, they had to send out for more food, another person to come in. I mean, there was a line 30 people long for quite a while. And it took, anywhere from 30 minutes up from some people at that point to get through it. So that's a lesson learned. I think Dan, your uncle, was approached us and was very interested in getting more involved. Some of the upcoming dates, of course, they are already doing their preparations for their trip out to Hawaii, and their fundraising is I think their end date is already this month, where they're going to stop raising and start preparing otherwise. But they also agreed to go out and speak to the other Cuthbertson and Valley, and so I think at some point that would be a great thing for us to get the kids involved, and those different, whether it's the bands or the choirs or what have you. So I'm looking forward to that. We were also approached by a local vendor, Jersey Mike's, about being selling food at an event, and they were very, very interested in movie night. And we said, well, that's kind of a late night. And I said, no, we think we'll do fine. So just wanted to bring that. That didn't go before the committee hasn't met since that, of course. So the committee is not 100% aware. Many of the committee members were there that night, and it was all positive. Okay, if they want to do it. I mean, this is not like, and I don't know if you're all familiar, some food vendors say, hey, you have to guarantee me $200 or $300 worth of sales, or else the village pays. This is none of that. So I wanted to make sure it was okay with the council that if she wants to go ahead and do it, the county's fine with it because they're bringing prepared food. They're not preparing anything on site. We've already looked into that. Amy had done some of the calls for us. So I'll stop there for just a second just to say I hope you all are okay with that. I don't see it as a negative at all.
So they put a rail over like 20 sandwiches, and if those 20 sell, they'll make 20 more.
Box lunches, box dinners, and this eats. There's no liability on behalf of the town.
I'm okay with it as long as the full Parks and Rec committee.
I think so.
I don't want to circumvent them by any means.
No, I do understand that. I know Pam, myself, Julie, who else had it at the time, but I mean, we are not, did not take us off the poll of everyone, but I felt in this instance, we will run it by the committee when we meet this month, which is still before the movie night, but it'll be right before the movie night, so.
Will they give them enough time to prepare do they ask for?
Well, that's why we'd like to let them know now to be able to prepare.
Well, Parks and Rec meeting is Thursday, which is a week from this Thursday, so a week and a half. And then the outdoor movie night is on the 30th at 7:15. So there's more than 2 weeks to go. And Parks meeting in between.
They would have to have an insurance certificate for us, George just said.
Okay. I think we mentioned that to them, by the way, but I'll double check on that. You know if we did it or we didn't.
I don't know. The main reason we were doing this is because families were going to show up at 6:30 and have nothing to eat. So we weren't. The main purpose was that we were concerned families were going to show up at a movie night, be there until 10 o'clock at night, and not have anything to eat. So we're just trying to solve the problem. But yeah, we mentioned insurance to them. They didn't look too concerned.
What's that?
We did mention.
Yeah, we did.
What's the deal about preparing food on site? What's the problem with that?
When you do that, you begin to get it, is it clean, all those kinds of things. And
Is there
the
fresh
county will
water?
inspect it.
Because they do it in front of Harris Theater all the time. They have big barbecue.
Hopefully they have the permits from the county. I don't know what they did.
I'm not going to, I don't know.
Yeah. They should.
Eat at your own risk.
They do, yeah. I was there last week.
All right, so do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we allow them to, as long as there's no cost to the village or taxpayers, that we allow them to go ahead and join the event and bring prepared food.
Maybe the Jersey Mike's.
Jersey Mike's.
Above.
Yes.
Okay, I'll second.
Any further discussion?
question?
I don't know if you're allowed to, aren't you, isn't there a conflict of interest?
Well, that's a different Jersey Mike's.
Okay.
Just with the, I think David's put the caveat in there that Parks and Rec as a whole approve it at their meeting. So,
Yeah.
I'll add that to the motion.
all right, so do we have a vote? All in favor? Okay. Unanimous? All right, next, Fran.
Okay, thank you. The park event budget request, I know we talked about it last time, Laura, I think Laura brought it up, about for this event that we just went through, as long as we don't go up to 4,000, we know you can go back every time. I was wondering if we could maybe set that up as for the major events that are on there that we established in same policy. I don't know if you want to call it policy, but guidance.
I think it makes it easier if we budgeted X number of dollars for events, and we budgeted X number of dollars per event, because some events are more expensive than others. As long as you don't go over budget, you know.
And I think that you're right, I mean, recognize that like the Easter event is very low cost to us.
Right.
Whereas the summer event's much higher cost to us. And I think that's a burden.
It gives you a baseline to start, planning all these events. You know what the budget, each one of them is. So,
Yes.
I'm in favor.
But we still set the budget.
For more.
Cheryl's kind enough to run up a budget number for us. We think, if we spent the maximum, which we never have, by the way, on a particular event, we have, and this will come up later in the last item, but for now, is a $3,200 overage, and that will grow because we will not be going to the 4,000 on each event.
I think it's a great way, gives you a little more latitude, so if one thing, doesn't work out, you can substitute, where your boundaries are, and just be able to move forward with less bureaucracy.
We appreciate it. I'm sure the committee definitely appreciate it.
So is there a motion?
I'll motion that we allow Parks and Rec, as long as they stay within their budget on per event, they have a little bit more latitude to spend that budget without council micromanaging.
The amount being,
The amount is up to us.
For the budgets.
For the budget discussion yearly, per the budget discussion per event.
You already have a list for them of dollars, right?
Right. With
Or any
the
major-
movie night, we know we're spending about a little less than, we're spending less than 500, even though you approved a budget of 500 for it. We know we're not spending that much. So things like that. But
So there was a motion,
I'll
right?
second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Unanimous? All right,
thanks,
next.
Council. Item came up, Cheryl brought up, which was 100% correct, is that there are temporary sign permit regulations that only allow 4 on a piece of property per year. So it doesn't matter that we own the property or the corner of CBS, for instance. So we've got an issue there if we want to advertise more. Or not advertise more, but even 4 or 5 events. Go to 5, well, can't do it. So do we, and this is more asking what we do, can we, have an exemption for, now I know you can't make an exemption just for us without changing the planning, the policy itself. I know Cheryl's thinking ahead. So can the planning board look at perhaps adding for a nonprofit being able to do it? Or, because we know there are other nonprofits already doing it. I mean,
Well, Scholar's been around longer than the village, and they have needs, but there's so many times a year.
right.
Yeah, there's always a blood drive or a Boy Scout event or something going on there.
And then they get
No.
Sometimes not, right?
Siler's been pretty good about getting permits, but yeah, and the thing is, it's not just, okay, so you all put up an event sign at CVS, but other people put up an event sign at CVS, so it's 4 signs. And it originally came up years ago, and it was property across from Price Mill on the corner there, where the Boy and Girl Farm was, and there was a company actually from Monroe that was selling chrysanthemums, and then they'd sell Christmas trees, and then they'd sell Easter flowers, and that was where the 4 times a year came up, because it was sort of turning a residential property into a business property along with the signs. So, but when Brad put this in, this is our ordinance, and council cannot exempt from the ordinance. The way to change is to change the ordinance, not this. So at this point, you might want to ask them to use a different corner where there hasn't been 4 signs, but Amy and I have brought it up with Vaughn a couple times here, and it does need to be addressed.
I think the best thing to do is give it to the planning board, let them look at it, and let them make a recommendation, and then bring it to council.
And in the meantime, you'll have to find a different corner.
That's fine, but it will also help solve the issue where it's occurring and we're not looking at it.
I think there needs to be consideration for a commercial parcel versus a residential parcel. And to your point about nonprofit advertisements versus commercial advertisements, I think those need to be both considered.
And part of it all is, all came from a Supreme Court case about signs and regulating language, and I don't know if you can say I don't think you can say a nonprofit over somebody else, but that's certainly Vaughn and Planning Board can figure it out.
Brian, can I ask you to put something together and send it to the planning board, or send it through Cheryl to the planning board, so they know what the...
I think his signage exemption request will work.
Exemption is probably the wrong word in Cheryl's right.
But I mean, that's enough for a bond and a half bucks to your planning board.
I just want to make sure the planning board understands the purpose behind the changes could potentially be requested.
If council would like, I could come to a planning board meeting and talk where this is on the agenda and talk to it one night.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that'd be good.
I'm not volunteer to do that. Sure.
Meanwhile, I'll make sure that Vaughn has it on the agenda.
Okay. All right. Sounds like a plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
The next is the volunteer t-shirt replacement proposal. I talked to you all about that. I think we went to a total of 17 shirts out of the 30. Of course, many of them are from Park and Rec Committee or their spouses, so they'll come back. The one thing that we did do, and you remember, I actually purchased the shirts separately, and then we went to see if we could get them embroidered the same way, the standards that, and they were charging us. We would have paid up more than double for the shirts for the printing. So I actually have the vinyl lettering to try and match the specs that you'd already given out to the Monroe Company, and that's what this is. Okay, to be brutally honest, because there was no way between when we had our meeting and this meeting for this to get done, because nothing was approved for it. So, what I'm suggesting is to have, and this changed a little bit from when I wrote this up, so bear with me. So what we suggested to do is, we did get hold of the Monroe Company. They can actually get this style shirt, and their prices are very reasonable. So rather than purchase them separately and trying to get them done or vinyl printed, we'll go back to the original standard and the intent, which is to purchase the shirts from the same company in Monroe and have them do the print as well. And the price that they do, now that they're selling us the shirts as well, is fairly reasonable.
So, help me out here. So, the shirt from the original company bought them from versus the Monroe Company, just shirt to shirt, price roughly?
It was close, but to print them, they were actually charging us close to double.
No, I'm just talking about the shirt from Company A and the shirt from the Monroe Company. They're within $1 of each other, or what?
Yeah, we didn't really ask them how much to purchase the shirts alone, so I don't know if I can answer that totally.
So
I
their
just know
price
that-
quoted you was the shirt plus vinyl printing or embroidery?
It's the second one, not the first one.
The Monroe does the screen printing.
Screen printing.
Okay.
So the shirts and everything, the only thing they charge is different is a $30 setup fee for the block print, and then they'll do the printing. So sizes small to extra large, $16 a shirt. That's with the printing. And double X is extra large is $18.50. Triple X is $21.
Sounds good. That's right.
No, I thought it was too. So, again, my idea for different things has been to put a process in place. Like the bounce house we have one now for. Now, if we could do one for the shirts like this, that would be okay. The Park and Rec Committee would include the replacement in their budget for the event. The next event, so to speak, to replace the shirts from the previous event. And we'd have a constant supply done one place according to the standards.
I like proactiveness though. I appreciate it.
Amy did a lot of research, so I appreciate that.
It is a different company. Will the shirts look the same, or they could be slightly different?
It's the same style, so I may be getting them from the same company.
Okay. But the same style, they may mean it's just tie-dye rather than the same pattern.
Now, this is called Woodstock, the style, and we got a picture. I said, I want to see the picture. And Amy sent me the picture. This is the shirt.
Great.
When you do each one, there'll be, little bit of variances. Like one of the ones I have actually has a little more purple up here on the collar somewhere. Whatever.
So you originally got 30 shirts and you have given out 17?
Correct.
So you have 13 shirts that are labeled volunteer still?
Yes.
Okay.
13. But I think the numbers replacement from this time will be the highest because the committee members all got it. Unless, it depends on if we get a ton of volunteers for Fall Bash. I shouldn't say it that way. It's possible.
So you're just asking for us
For me to go ahead
to
and
maintain an inventory of 30.
and do that particular replacement every time we, without coming back and asking and getting information, because then you run into how much time they need to do it, order the shirts, those kinds of things.
Will they charge that $30 fee every time?
I thought of it too, and I was not able to get an answer. I just got back from the coast, so 4 days.
Who is the lender company?
I forgot that name. Do you remember?
Yeah, I can't quite remember what it is.
I think I had it.
We'd gotten the name from, I think, Stallings uses them. It's something like Shirts. I don't know. Shirts is in the name.
If they know that you're going to continue to get shirts from them, it seems like they would keep the whatever setup printing thing, and then they wouldn't have to redo it.
Maybe.
I'll maybe follow up and ask them. She's been going back and forth with them, so we have one point of contact. I don't want to confuse things. But that's the point. As long as, again, I love to save $30 too for that matter. So as long as that is all true, council's okay with that? Okay.
So that means like if we need 17 shirts and they're about 20 each, that would be $340. So that out of your $4,000, you're going to allocate $340 for shirts, and then the inventory of shirts would be kept here at Town Hall.
Yep, if you'd like to do it that way, I'd be more.
Yeah, I mean they should.
Yeah, absolutely. They're sitting in my dining room right now.
Does that need to be a motion?
Oh, it's not just a general policy.
Also more or less but you want to be on board. Okay, lastly, we had a member of the community approach us, Amy Crawford, she's actually here today, approached, I think John originally at the park, and John, Julie, myself, and Amy met not this past Friday, the Friday before, to talk through an idea of having another event. Not changing the budget, so stay with me. And chili cook-off. So it would be a chili cook-off and a cornhole tournament. You would also we would also have our vendors there, and she has all those contacts. Would arrange the whole thing, volunteers and all. So the biggest fear, again, Park and Rec Committee will have to talk about this in September, in our September meeting. What we thought about, we originally were thinking about doing it during the fall bash. We said, no, it's too complicated. And besides, we already have food vendors coming in, they would appreciate the chili cook-off, which was fine. So we're talking about a 1 to 5 time frame on November 19th, if I remember correctly. Yep. Which is Saturday, before Thanksgiving, Saturday before Thanksgiving. And it would be a, meet the community or that kind of thing type of event. The village's costs of it would likely be the deputies, the Board of Johns, so like what we do during the Easter event and things like that. Deputies and Board of Johns largely. And from that perspective, we've already talked to the county regarding their concerns, and there are, going back to that word exemptions, because one of the things we talked about was doing part of the donations for a charity as well through that. And the town would not be doing that. Would that be being done by the coordinating on the other side, like Southport almost doing what they do.
So what would be the agency on the other side?
Oh, the nonprofit or the agency?
Like you partner with Southbrook, who would you be partnering with this time?
This is a group of it's a group of realtors. It's a group of Amy, you want to just jump in a little bit on that for me?
So I have several different area, like the orthodontists that would sponsor like any little different games, but definitely have different neighborhoods have a cornhole tournament. They would, put in money into the pool to have like a bracket. We have like a bracket for the different neighborhoods, and for the cornhole tournament, I have people that want to get into the chili cook-off. Again, it's just like a meet your neighbors community event, and I would coordinate all of that.
Wesley Chapel neighborhoods?
Excuse me, Wesley?
These would be Wesley Chapel neighborhoods?
Yes.
And how about the nonprofit?
And then I have a local nonprofit. It's called Pat's Place, and they
Pat's Place,
Pat's Place is the 501c3 nonprofit. They've taken in over 620 trafficked children in our areas, and also senior citizens that are being mistreated, and they house them and give them places to live while they're finding better permanent locations. And they have apartment complexes and then they have host families that take care of these children. And I think that the community needs to know more about it because it's right in our backyard. And I can get several community businesses to jump in and do the chili cook-off and neighborhoods to come out to do the cornhole tournaments. And then I have art vendors, handmade art vendors, and music and all.
I like the concept, but I think it needs to go to Parks and Rec, and so we can work out and brought back to council.
And I think additional pieces considered within the current budget amount for the year for all of those.
Absolutely. Within budget. That's why I said all on the budget, because we will do it within budget.
And you're thinking of September?
November 19th.
Sorry.
That's okay.
The other thing, would you need to have I'm hearing a lot of groups and a lot of people and organizations. Do you need to have one that's responsible for it? You know, who is responsible for this event, I guess I'm trying to say.
We'll be working with Amy. Amy Crawford.
So who would provide the insurance certificates to us? You know, kind of.
Well, okay.
When we do it with Southbrook, they give us that. So I'm just trying to picture how it fits in.
They do with that because they're doing the bounce house and they're doing other things, right? We used to do it with Friends of Parks. We had art one. I think we had art like one time that I remember, art vendors and that kind of thing. They didn't have to provide an insurance certificate unless they were actually doing the art on site. And then unless George disagrees, that's what.
I'm just hearing a lot of different pieces, and I'm not sure, like, if there's a problem or whatever. I feel like it's like,
you come back with the details. No,
yeah.
I understand. I understood.
And does the health department get involved?
Yes. And we've already had a conversation with them, and you've had the conversation.
I
sorry.
spoke with Christine Ford today with the health department and asked her what about, you know, since it would be food, it would be prepared off-site and it would be brought in, since it is with a 501c3, we have to submit the plan to them, but she said that they don't need to do any regulations or there's no fees or anything like that, because any money that's going to be generated will be with it for a 501c3, and they get one time per month exemption with the 501c3 if they will be making, you know, getting any donations or anything like that from that.
Mm-hmm.
And what I would say is, so we know we have to meet all these rules. I mean, we've done events, you know, before. So that would be a condition that would say, automatically we'd have to all agree to that. So,
We've done craft events before, where we've had craft vendors out, so we're familiar with how to run it.
I think the other thing you have to be cognizant of is sundown is at 5:17, so dusk is like 5:46. So we just need to make sure to have everybody in the park quite hard.
and we did that at the end of Summer Jam. We made an announcement. Please leave at this point because you need the assistance to get across the street. And we didn't have any issues that I'm aware of.
And also lit up the trail to the woods.
Are you thinking that we would pay for, I'm trying to go back,
Porta Johns and deputies.
and what about signs? Signs?
No.
Okay, because you are starting to spend your whole budget for the year. I just, you don't have like a whole lot of money.
I know we also assume we were spending for 1,000 for each, and that's we've never done that yet. So.
So that's.
But
it was the first time. No, we've never.
But the other thing is, if it's encumbered for $4,000, you can't. I can only do a pre-audit for what we have, and we're at.
Agreed.
With this, you're about maxed out.
Yes.
You're very close to being maxed out for the year.
Until the event is completed, and then at that point, if let's say the full bash, if we spend $3,200, well now there's $800 more that's unencumbered.
Are you going to do vendors where we did vendors before with fall bashes, and are you going to charge vendors to come, and the vendors do need to bring insurance certificates and all, so.
I think the only, and I had a conversation with Sandra Bradford as well, to my knowledge, the only ones that needed to bring a insurance certificate is anyone that was doing, let's say they were doing wood burning or something like that with a torch. Anyone that is using that kind of thing.
All right, let me interrupt you for a second. And is the concept of bringing this up tonight just basically getting the general consensus?
Yes.
With a broad stroke of and not getting into details?
Park and Rec committee still to meet on it and coming back with the details.
And all you want is whether we think it's a good idea or not.
If you feel that,
Right. And all the details will get pointed out.
Absolutely.
Before you come back to us. So I think that's what we would vote on, is to vote on whether council feels that this is something worth spending the time to organize and work out the details and do. And I'm in favor of it.
One of the outcomes of Vision 2050 was, from the focus groups, was more community events. And so I think this is entirely consistent with what the community has expressed, that they want to see more events at the park. It's a very low-cost additional event for the village because the vendors are going to... So basically, we're looking for your support to bring more events to the community.
I think the council, we have a motion for...
Provided we get the details, we'll make a motion that we let Parks and Rec look into the details. I don't want to approve an event I don't have any details on, but I will approve letting them move forward with working on the project.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Brad, I understand the questions about the insurance and everything else, so I'm sure you're going to be
And I'll go back
with all
with
those
the
things. And,
Absolutely.
so,
And I just checked with George, and he said, yes, vendors should have insurance.
yes.
Every vendor, even if it's just selling a framed dog.
I mean, that's been the policy because there's no coverage for it in the general policy that the
How much is it going
village
to
has.
cost somebody to get insurance?
I have no idea.
They're in business to make money, those vendors, so they...
I know, like Wesley Chapel Elementary is having a vendor fair, and they're charging $35 for something.
I was
like most people charge $35, and somebody's selling bracelets or something.
Yeah, I was an AMA vendor for years, and I've done them all over North
Y'all can probably work it out.
I've never had a big
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. We'll work it out, not in the council meeting.
Right. So this, all we're doing is approving you guys working on it. We don't want any of the details tonight. Thank you.
All right. And then, Brad, anything else before we go to John's comment?
John's comment?
Well, we have the volunteer work weekend.
Yes,
This
thank you.
Saturday.
It was on my list, actually.
And Cheryl, I noticed the volunteer work day isn't listed on the calendar of events. Is there any reason
Nobody
why?
told me about it.
Okay.
I haven't heard it.
No one told me.
John, I was also going to ask if it makes sense for us to put any kind of notice up in the park, hoping to catch any of the regular park goers to say, oh, look, they're doing a volunteer work day on Saturday, maybe they'll come and help out. Even if it's just a printed out sheet, laminated, and stuck on the main trail or by the information.
We can do that, but we know nobody reads those signs. They don't even read the rule signs. They don't read the don't leave valuables in your car signs. So, yeah, we could do that, but nobody's going to read it.
Well, I just think that if there are people that are regular park goers and like the additions that we put into the park, maybe we could get one or two extra people if we put up a little notice.
I don't think we're going to have a shortage of people. Southbrook was asking us for more things to do because, what did they say, brother? They've got like 600 members of the church or something.
That are signed up to volunteer for something, not necessarily the park. But
Yeah, we've given them tasks that we like them to do at the park. We've sent them a waiver. They know the requirements around the waiver. So.
You think we can get between now and Saturday a commitment from them as far as their account? 20, 50?
I mean, if y'all want this posted on the Sunshine List and Facebook, you need to get it to Sharon.
Right. It's a Southbrook event, so I think we first have to run it by Southbrook and ask them if they want non-church members. Because
I'm not trying to be, but has council approved Southbrook having a volunteer day? Because I haven't heard, I mean, this is the first I've heard of it. I mean, I'm okay with it, but it's September the 12th.
Yeah, kind of. I believe I had mentioned it to the general when I was talking to Kelly about parking and things like that. Cheryl and I did have a discussion about potentially getting more pit gravel so that there would be additional opportunities based on budget to, besides just moving wood chips, doing some additional trail repairs, et cetera, things like that. So, and I mentioned why. I mean, and so did I actually say no, let's post it? No. Did I actually say that I had a commitment of how many at the time? No. will raise my hand and say that.
So does it say Southbrook Volunteer Day? So I can just anyone.
They're having a big community service day.
Right. They do this.
They're doing it all over the place. So it's not only Dogwood Park, they're volunteering in many, many different places. And they said, given the past partnership with Dogwood, with the village, has the village got anything they need help with? So we said, sure. We could do with help on this and this and this.
They reached out when?
Sorry?
They reached out when? When did we find out about this?
6 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago.
Yeah, to the mayor's point, I mean, anybody who wants to volunteer to help, I don't want to turn away, but these are things I think these are items that need to come before council.
David, I knew about it. I apologize. I thought the council knew.
Yeah, I did too.
No.
It's not about it.
I'm not gonna stand here and say I can swear whatever, because I can't.
Also, as far as the calendar events, we do have the litter sweep. Who's organizing that for
Amy.
the 24th?
Amy.
Amy's running that? Okay.
The park and rec committee is advised of it, and whether or not they'll volunteer, something to them.
When is the volunteer day?
Pardon?
When is the volunteer?
This Saturday.
This Saturday?
Saturday the 17th.
Oh.
And John, correct me if I'm wrong, it's going to be moving wood chips, gravel, wheelbarrows, shovels.
I mean, that's fine. I think the point is just, it's Monday. Council had never heard of it except for you.
I apologize. I thought this was all,
Thank you. Apologize.
public knowledge.
Well, again, it goes with partnerships in the community, which is something that the citizens want. So, I mean, I get what you're saying about the not notifying and everything, but it is their event, it's not our event, and they're going to be volunteering to come and help clean up the park. So, I mean, I think that's a
I mean,
good.
we're okay with that, but
Yeah.
it shouldn't be the Monday before and council just found out about it. I would love that not to happen again.
No. Agreed.
So we have the Saturday cleanup, we have the event the following Saturday, which is the winter cleaning on the side of the road, and then the following Friday night, after that, we have movie night. On
And then
that,
National Night Out.
and the National Night Out is when, October?
October 4th.
October 4th.
Yes.
5 days later. 4 days later.
Well, we just need to make sure we have all those volunteer workers.
Yeah, they've been sending them in advance.
Have they been returning them in advance or just sending them out to them? Who's organizing that?
Yeah.
Okay.
As long as we get those, because I did, so a Park and Rec committee member did tell me that they went to a Southbrook meeting and they were told that those forms really didn't matter, and we really didn't need them. So,
How
we
will I
make
told
sure we
them?
have them, volunteer members.
I plan to be there, and I'll make sure I get one from everybody.
Yeah.
I apologize.
All right.
I'll get
So-
some of it.
Anything else, Brian?
I think I've taken up enough of your time.
Okay. Thank you for your service. John, had a comment there, public comment. Would council like to say anything? I know that we only have one employee, we have special insurance and stuff for John. So I think it would, in my opinion, have to follow some sort of volunteer capacity where he signs a waiver and volunteer.
So I spoke with them on the kid is 21, but she said I think she said legal custodian because of his autism. She said she's happy to sign the volunteer form with him, let him sign it. She'll sign the volunteer waiver as well. And it's no cost help to the village.
But it would have to be supervised help with you present.
Correct. So it would only occur at the time I'm working at the park for my, the normal hours I do at the park. The idea would be I'd let them know when I plan to be there, and then he could come join me, and I'd assigning tasks, no power equipment use, just spade, wheelbarrows, pickaxe, that kind of stuff. Digging trenches, laying drains, moving gravel, moving chips, moving trash around the park. No power tool operation.
Well, the great thing about it is we try it out, see if it works, and see if he shows up. He may come and spend 2 hours with you, John, and then never come back again. He goes, dang, this is like real work.
Yeah.
Well, I'm willing to, from a volunteer perspective, let him try.
I agree. I think it's great to be able to allow an individual to come in who has some issues and to be able to give that person some, feeling of purpose.
And John's willing to work with them.
Yeah, I think that's great. Any other comments, council?
Try and give us a report, by next month, see how it works out.
Yeah. So I'm okay to go back to the mother and say, sign the volunteer form and work out the coordination of when he's there, when I'm there, and that stuff. Okay.
Just not really formalized volunteer.
Thank you, council.
So that brings us to the,
One last thing for John. John, do you have the gravel yet?
Do I?
Do you have the gravel yet?
Yes.
Okay.
Delivered this morning. Two locations. Splitting it was a bit of a difficult challenge, but
I need some of it for the principals.
it's there.
all right. So that brings us to the contract and appropriation for the dam engineer. I don't know if everyone saw it, but there was an article in the ETJ, whatever you call it, too. What about the dam?
Our dam?
Yep.
You might see that.
I got a few upset on the cost. That's enough. It's not council. Gerald, you want to open us up on this? Or? Jerry, you want to talk about it?
Sure. So I did have one or two questions from a council member, and I had sent them to Amy Black at LJB, and she replied, and I forwarded that to you all. And we had someone from George's firm review the contract, and it's I think they made a few changes, and so it's got the legal blessing. The amount did change just slightly up to $83,000, and she added the task on grant assistance. And so in our agenda it said $81,765. So you're looking at a contract for $83,000, and you would have to appropriate from fund balance for this $83,000.
Can you explain the dam engineer contract for $83,000, and yet the wording is that the hourly rates are subject to adjustment, and the fee estimates, and good faith estimates, and these estimates are based on but they may go up. I mean, if we have a figure, what am I missing? We have a figure of 83. Then why are they saying that they can go up on the cost? I mean,
I think basically when you start probing into a dam and in the ground, you don't know what you're going to come across.
Yeah.
And so,
What is that?
That's their best guess at this point of what the time will take with their rates.
Okay.
And she broke it down into task 1 through task 7.
Yeah, I read all those.
So,
Very detailed.
yeah.
Cheryl, to Doug's point, there's not a guaranteed maximum, right? We have an hourly rate and an estimate on the number of hours.
Well, if we approve this contract with them, the maximum is $83,000. If they feel like they're going to be running over, then they'll have to come back to us for a change. She did say that they would hold the rates to the current rate schedule for the hourly fees.
rates through the end of this calendar year, or are they carrying over to next calendar year?
I think through this contract.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're new to us, and they're trying to get, they're getting our business, they're getting a foot in the door, so.
Jeremy, would you prefer 2 motions or one? One to approve and one to appropriate?
Really, you should do the appropriation first, because you really can't approve spending money you don't have. Yeah.
And it would come from general fund?
General fund balance, yeah.
The full 83,000?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm gonna make a motion to pull 83,000 from the general fund to apply towards the consulting agreement with LJB.
Second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Unanimous?
I make a motion for us to accept the contract with LJB for the downward $83,000. Do we have a second?
I've got a second question.
Okay.
Does the agreement that we have, George, does this include any elements that came about after your review?
Yeah, Becky in my office reviewed it, sent it out. They made the changes that we had requested. I don't think there was any fighting about any of the changes.
Okay.
Is it normal in a contract to pay for their meals and their lodging?
Where are they coming from?
The 2022 North Carolina Water Resource Fee Schedule?
No. Where's the company coming from?
Oh, Ohio?
Yeah, I would assume so then, because they're going to have somebody here on site for the time that they're doing the work.
Okay.
So instead of billing you a fee.
They're corporates in Ohio, but their principal office is in Garner.
Yeah. So
I don't think there's going to be much overnight.
Probably not, but
yeah.
It wouldn't be unusual when you got somebody coming from out of town to charge for that.
And we have a motion and a second. Any further questions?
I'm sorry, who seconded it?
I did.
Thank you.
Do you have any further questions? All in favor? Unanimous? What takes us to a closed session for attorney-client privilege? Y'all get lucky.
Joe, I thought I was supposed to
Okay. As you guys know, David and I have been in communication with Fire Chief Stephen McClendon, and I've passed out a summary. I've already kind of talked to you guys about this, but I've passed out a summary that has been given a thumbs up by the chief as far as just for background, so that we're not going to go with this, but just for background as to, about the department and some of its history and such. I've emailed each of you 2 pictures in your Voice of Chapel email that because one of my goals is to get fire department pictures in here along with the others, and so I've been working with the chief on some pictures that were taken at the fires, and so anyway, if you get a chance to look in your email, then you'll see those. And I'll show you just quickly on my map. These were taken by the firemen. I'll turn it around just a second. These were taken actually by the firemen. This is the McDonald's fire. And this other one is also the McDonald's. Both of those are the McDonald's fire. But I just thought they were really well done, really awesome pictures. That's on top of the roof of the McDonald's. and then there's another one. But I mean, to me, those are the beautiful. Those are the beautifully framed and stuff. And he's also said that he could maybe, he's gonna, if anything else comes up, he can show it to us. I just thought it would be better to have an action picture than to have just them standing in front of the fire department. For one thing, it's impossible to get them all together. And he has also voiced an interest in attending council meetings to give like quarterly updates on the department and what's going on with them. And so, we'll get with him and get his schedule of when he can do that. That's it.
One other thing that he asked about was getting the departments into the prior to any items coming before the planning board that would involve.
Sort of like
the fire
finding number
department.
7.
What's that?
Sort of like finding number 7.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. So I don't know how we present that to the planning board, or that's something that we will ask of them to get that along before they consider.
Probably not take that long.
Well, I know we talked about getting input from the schools, so it would be kind of similar to that, from Bond's side.
Yeah, the Forest Service. What is that guy's name? The new guy? Anyway, he voiced interest in looking at any kind of development that might come in to help out with what kind of trees are, going to be planted, and just kind of being a consultant about that.
One of the things I'd like to work with on the firemen, let me back up. We all know that there are different lines surrounding Wesley Chapel. There's what is Wesley Chapel, what's not Wesley Chapel. Different school districts, different fire districts, different zip codes, different everything. In my neighborhood, Silver Creek, there's only one way in and one way out. If John Lepke's house burns down, they don't get Wesley Chapel Fire Department. They get Mineral Springs. If my house sets on fire, well, I get Wesley Chapel. Because where the line is drawn, and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense that they got to come in the same entrance either way.
Well, the village of Wesley Chapel is in their District 1. Portions of Wesley Chapel, portions of Marvin and Weddington are in District 2. And then District 3 is Marvin, just Marvin.
Well, let's say,
Their Baker Fire Department covers part of Western Chapel, too.
Yeah, oh yeah. Well,
let's say we approve a 100-acre plot to be developed sometime in the future. But in that 100-acre plot, we've got 2 different school districts, we've got 2 different fire districts, we've got 2 different zip codes.
I don't know if there's anything we can do about that, though.
Well, I don't know. We talked about that some, and it may have been done before you got there, because we were chit-chatting ahead of time. But that was one of the things that I brought up. He said that was early on that the fire departments, the districts themselves, had to monitor, sort of what monies they had coming in from the residents, and they were a little bit more controlling about giving up certain areas. However, there was something that I think I'm saying this right. We can verify with Chief McClendon, but they have changed all that, and he's open to helping us with that. He said communication is going to have to go from department to department, but he's open to talking with the various departments that come into Wesley Chapel to see if we can't make all of Wesley Chapel covered under their section 46 or whatever.
Like for Baker, where they come up, if they're hitting that part of the village, you want service from that area, as opposed to having to come off the other side of the village to get, diagonally across the village. So I don't think we want to preempt them making the most expeditious decisions to reach your residents. But it would be much nicer to be able to have one entity that we know is encompassing us.
It would be.
And one of the things they've talked about before, and I'm not sure if it's ISO or something, they have ratings for fire districts, and it depends on how far they are from a station, so it may seem like a good idea to move somebody into a different fire district, but it could really, have other repercussions.
My point for Silver Creek is if both fire trucks left at the same time, trying to get to John Lecky's house, the one at Wesley Chapel would get there a lot quicker than the one from Mineral Springs, and they have to pass my house to get to his house.
Well, I think they're the ones that need to make the.
Yeah, and he promised us that. I mean, when wasn't it Patrick Nyland came out and gave that presentation about fires?
Isn't he gone?
You know, the fire department, I mean, I've covered fire service for years with the newspaper, and you get a fire call, they're going to respond. I mean, they're, you know, because they're passionate about helping people. And so I can't imagine Wesley Chapel, if they know what's in Wesley Chapel. I can't imagine them going, oh, well, we'll let Mineral Springs handle it. I mean, they're going to all be like,
I just think that that's where we do have to let the professionals in that sense say, this is what makes the most sense. And, you know, everything is just for us. We just feel so fragmented for so many reasons as a town. The fire division just is another one.
Well, you know, and I think that's something that we can work towards. As far as I'm aware, this is the first real conversations that us as council has had with the fire chief. And sometimes, as long as I've sat on the council, I mean, we've heard from the county, but you know, as far as Chief McClinton,
he said
maybe once,
previous councils did not get along with fire service.
So I think we'll eat the elephant one step at a time, or one bite at a time. But you know, we've started the dialogue now, and I think we can grow into more discussions like that more. Yeah, for sure.
I really appreciate you doing that. I feel like that really probably helped them. So,
They have to do that second, so I was good.
Okay.
So going back to these pictures, how do you guys feel about these pictures? Would you rather have something different, or I kind of need some direction? Frame them, put the fire service representative out here, wherever. I mean, some of these we can move, like.
Displaying stuff, and there's weapons to protect people.
Well, we can take down like the flowers and put up fire service, and we can take down. These are going to be very.
Flowers. I don't know why you shut those. No, we have areas in the town hall that we could.
There's a place back there that it's going to be a very long. You notice this one's going to be. It's going to be very unique in the framing of it. So,
it's a big enough file to make a big print. I mean, it's great to look at it on the screen, but is it a 1 megabit file? Is it, you know?
It's
I don't want it to be grainy.
They're about 3,000 pixels.
Okay.
So they should be fine.
I would just like us to standardize on a frame size and matting size, so that when we look, that everything, you know, is uniform. So we want to move and.
Oh, that's hard to do that. That's really hard to do when you've got so many different. I mean, look at the one over there of the guy saluting the flag. I mean, that's why they're individually framed, is because they frame to the picture.
Right, but that's a vertical, but you can still say we want it to be a certain frame size to where we have consistency, because then when you look at them, you're looking at things that are consistent, and it doesn't draw your eye wonky, because, one's shorter, one's higher, or wider than another.
Well, the middle one, those aren't all the same size.
No, they're not. They're not.
Yeah. And that bothers you?
That bothers me. They should all be similar size to where they're proportioned and everything else. Otherwise, it looks like we just have the cheapest frame in Kmart. They're very nice pictures. They're gorgeous pictures. But I would just like to be a little more standard, and that way we just have a little more uniform look. That's all.
The other thing is we did not budget for any pictures this year. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's not a problem. I mean,
until we go to pay for them.
Yeah, the framing. I mean, I print the pictures. I mean, I can do that. But but we can. I want to have the fire service represented in town hall, and but you know, we can always.
Well, I feel like for these are more like buildings. These are more different. That's the park.
We also have the other lobby.
Maybe the display, and you could do like a formal one and some of the.
Because we have the churches, which are not the village per se, they're in the village, right? And we have the shopping center, right? But then we have park things, which are clearly our village property, so to speak, right? So I think there is some something to be said for having more representation. So, a nice picture of the fire department building on par with the churches, I think would be perfect.
Yeah, it's so boring.
It is boring, but it's still a similar thing.
But I do have, if I didn't send this to y'all, but I do have this one that I took off their Facebook page. And I could, that's something we could frame, it's not very interesting.
I wonder if they would have any pictures that they might want to give to us.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I talked to the chief about, and they would have the negatives, but they don't have any. If they gave us a picture, it would be different. It wouldn't be framed the same. If they gave us something, it'd probably only be.
Well, they could give us a digital file.
Say again?
They could give us a digital file and we get it framed.
Yeah, but I have asked
I
them.
just don't want a picture of a fire as the big.
Whereas I would love this picture. And it's an action picture.
Yeah.
It is. I just don't think it's on par with us saying this is.
Oh, I'd like it better than the pictures.
Yeah, I mean, there's two actions. There's a guy catching a fish, and then there's a
I like
boy
the
running,
film.
and then there's these guys saluting. Those are action pictures.
So what action is needed on this?
None. It's just I wanted to see get your feelings on if we're moving in the right direction, and how you feel about the pictures that would these be? I don't know if we need to do any action because there's no money to do anything.
Well, we can always appropriate money.
Yeah, that was my
I
point.
have no issue making money available to do pictures. Don't renew my comments into me in that. I have no problem saying, you come back with a proposal like, here's what it's going to cost us, these are the pictures we want, and you need $1,000 for it, we'll go to $1,000.
Oh,
My opinion.
They're like 40 or something.
I'm just saying.
So, what?
I love the pictures that are up. I think we have plenty of wall space to add more.
And these pictures, David likes these
I
pictures.
love those pictures.
Yeah. As long as they're big enough to make quality prints.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I mean, when we first started here, there was nothing on the walls. There was no seal. There was nothing there. It was a vanilla envelope. And now it's starting to look like a real town hall. Thanks to Jeff.
I think that's either of them actually here.
I think it's
Back when you were
better.
sworn in.
Yeah, things like the next.
So, Deb, I'd say move forward and
That's a nice
figure out.
crack going out.
Nor making me anxious. We're 20 minutes off the first station.
Oh,
Yeah,
God.
come on.
Okay, comments and plan update. Are you good, Deb?
I'm good.
So we need a motion for planning board to move forward with the implementation of the comp plan's recommendations, including examination of the village zoning map to determine the extent to which the map is inconsistent with the future land use map.
So motion.
Second.
Any further discussion?
So there's extra vote.
Oh, no, sorry. All in favor? All in favor?
You know.
Last word.
So now we need to review the camera policy. I thought it was vague enough to just be right.
I have one comment on the camera policy. Was item J, says a log will be kept for all viewing requests. Doesn't really say what would be in the log, the day the request, the request to be used. But that seems like item J should probably be closer to B, where you're talking about just viewing it or access to it, because then everything after that is about the recordings. So that's just an organizational thing.
The very last sentence, the policies adopted by the group November 11th of 2019.
Yeah, we have cameras here, but we don't have that.
We have,
So this has already been approved? Then why are we looking at it?
you want to?
We're adjusting it for the public cameras.
Oh,
We wanted to make sure it was still applicable to what we're doing on the park.
okay.
I thought it was vague enough to work.
But like I said, I would just say the first about viewing, and then the comment about blog for viewing, and then all the
That's your,
Just a new item J, which I assume includes some of this kind of stuff up to, which would be enough.
so you would be making a motion to move item J and to add included data request, requester, and reason for request, and move it under E.
Include, what was the wording there?
Include the date of the request, the requester, and the reason for the request. Pretty standard law, I think.
Should make the motion of approval based upon those changes.
Yeah.
I second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Western Municipal Alliance, there's not really an update. Weddington is still very actively in pro-environment pursuing ETJ. Bond did sit down with, or not sit down, he did talk in detail with Weddington's planner about some of the areas on our borders and the comp plan and how he saw those develop. He was confident that they would be making some changes to what they were thinking about for those areas. So he's supposed to keep me posted. And that's really all for it. That leads us to council comments.
No.
A quick comment. When we started, I don't know if it was actually we had made it. Whenever I started requesting the local spiritual leaders, clergy come in and provide indications, it was really based upon an initiative that Jan Smith started. In her honor and now in her memory, I would like to continue that through the end of this year. I mean, I think we've basically done most of this year, which leaves us with just 3 more months. If there's somebody that you guys feel like we need to ask, we need to honor or be honored by their presence, one of your pastors, let me know. I'll be glad to line that up. And in Jan's memory, I'd like to continue this through the end of the year.
And what about after that?
I don't care. It's up to you guys.
I'm fine with it.
Is there any concern about the email that we got saying separation of church and state, and what do we do with praying in our meetings?
Just ignore that word. She said it's good.
We had an issue, this goes back 6 or 7 years, where we had one planning board member who was Jewish make a similar statement. And we went to, Bill Rodriguez actually went out and bought a book of non-denominational prayers or things that you could read at the beginning without mentioning any specific religion or God or whatever. So I like what we're doing now. I would say, maybe reach out to a synagogue.
Well, I've been reaching out to churches within the village or very close to the perimeters of the village.
Do we have a synagogue?
I mean, David, what's your sense of the number of houses of worship that we have for the denominations? I know we've been several different ones.
Got Methodist, Presbyterian, and Lutheran.
Yeah. I think you've done a good job getting a variety of.
I don't think anybody can say that we're focusing on one versus the other.
And long term, we may have, we did this for 20 years, but we may have an issue, George. But
you could absolutely get sued for what you're doing.
Yeah,
for sure.
But I'm thinking
we've talked about this a bunch of times.
If we can continue through the end of the year, at that point, then I'll be glad to be as.
I mean, the hot button.
As I can be if asked.
The hot button points are references to Jesus and Christ, right?
Right.
Whereas, generally speaking, references to God, because God is somewhat uniformly much more uniform term. That's a tough one. Ones that are just specifically Christian prayers in general. To your point, where it's only Christian denominations that are invited to speak, those are where you get in trouble. Now, I will say in the last couple of years, there was a Supreme Court case that eased a little bit of the restrictions on it. Made it.
If you're a football player, if you're a football coach, you might know what building.
Yeah, there's that, and then there was another one involving a local government that I'm forgetting the details of. But in any event, there's groups that go around. If they came here for 3 straight meetings and heard that, it wouldn't surprise me if you got to.
You're fine until someone makes a statement.
Right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Well, at the planning board, I was asked to do prayer sometimes, and you were too. And I looked up prayers that mentioned not Jesus, not Christ. It just said, we ask these things, amen. I mean, basically in God's name, or we just, amen, and no God or anything mentioned. And they were fine,
I think we're good.
And then lastly, when things go undone without people knowing, without showing appreciation, I did not realize that our mayor was sending thank you notes to each one of the pastors that have been here. So thank you so much for that. That's cool. Thank you.
I appreciate the time.
She's awesome. We're lucky to have her.
These are my mailbox, September 26th at 10. Oh, y'all got one?
No.
It's in your mailbox.
September 26th.
Oh, and their mailbox. I thought you meant home.
Yeah. The groundbreaking for Waxhaw's town campus. I'll leave them up here if you want to see them. And then the 2020 Make It in Union County Manufacturing Celebration Breakfast. Y'all want to attend? I'll be there. Because I'll be working. I am going to go ahead and set a date, I think, for the first coffee with the mayor. I think, how do I say this right now? Certain committees are making it harder than it has to be, and they haven't been able to meet.
Certain individuals in the committees are making money.
So I think I just want to just go ahead and prove that it's a very simple thing. So I don't know if y'all want to rotate with me.
I'll be happy.
So like if I choose it.
I hate coffee.
I hate coffee too, but and it's going to be BY. We're not providing anything.
Well,
right?
we could say Coke with them there, but people might really
They
put
might
that.
misinterpret.
Yeah, hold
Say, or maybe I don't know what we'll say, but
Conversation with the mayor.
right,
We don't know why we're going to be.
right. Yeah, we don't want to want to be donuts or anything.
Yeah.
So maybe we just say chat with the mayor and.
Sure.
But I like coffee with the mayor. It just has a.
Yeah, I mean,
It's not doesn't cost anything at all to have hot coffee.
But if you're going to do it in the afternoon.
So I will. So Deb, you want to go first?
Yes.
And then after that, well, I'm thinking nobody's going to be beating on the door
We may not even get anybody showing up.
except for one person. So maybe every other month.
try it. Try it and adjust as you need to.
So Deb, we'll get together, prepare calendars.
Okay.
Let me know so I can publicize it.
Sure.
If I don't know, I can't publicize.
So, I think that's it.
I'll go next.
Okay.
Start apologies. I was really unaware that you guys were not aware of the volunteer work day on Saturday. I really thought it was common knowledge, so I apologize that it was just brought to your attention.
So Brad just forwarded me, he sent an email to me and asked if, back in, on August 9th, he said, she sent this email about a volunteer day, and I totally forgot. It said, sounds like an opportunity if John can use them, but it still needed to come
No, I agree.
further than that,
I
right?
agree. I thought everyone was aware of it, so apologies for, on my behalf, Brad's behalf, everyone's approximately.
Don't do it again.
No, I think it's a good opportunity, but that is what it is. And then you already touched on the event coming up in Waxhaw. I have actually attended the event with William Bruley and Jim Hill in Waxhaw last week about planning and zoning. It was a very good meeting put on by probably one of the top planning and zoning administrators in the country. He doesn't understand Union County's politics specifically and what we have to deal with here, but he understands the planning and zoning process very well. Some of the statistics that he was able to comb through and find is that specifically 85% of the kids that grow up in Union County do not stay in Union County. they end up going out and living someplace else. And the number one reason given for why they don't stay in Union County is affordable housing. So imagine you're graduating college or high school and you're looking for your first starter house and not having anything specifically that is affordable to move into. So it was one of the things that they talked about. He was big on pushing walkable communities and parks and rec. And one of the things he said, how many people closed your parks right when COVID hit? And he said, now that we're past it, we realized that the best thing we could have done was keep all the parks open. So if it ever happens again, the general consensus is keep people moving, keep people outside, don't make them hunker down and become hermits. It's not helping the situation. There's a lot of good information out of the meeting, but those are the two things I think that stuck with me the most. So that was it for me.
Cheryl, I just want to thank you for all of your due diligence and hard work on the art funding and planning and your attention to such specific detail to keep up with every penny and just make sure that we're straight and that we're doing everything within the rules and even verifying that we're feeling it. I know they seem like, it's unrecognized and unappreciated, but thank you so much for doing that.
Thank you.
We love being able to just say
thank you.
Anybody coming to Little Sweet next weekend? I am.
I don't know, we'll see. My husband's out of town, so unless I have
From 8 to 10, the 24th.
Do they already have a set road to be doing?
I don't know, they'll probably do 84 again, I don't know.
Last time when they did it, Deb and I went down 84. William really went like this way, and Soweries went that way. So
I thought Amy said that they did not want to be on a main road like 84.
So they might have chosen different roads.
Yeah, it would be nice, because that's kind of scary. But we will have deputies out there helping.
I thought they weren't.
I don't know.
I don't know.
The guy from Little Roasters does all that.
Yeah.
So that's why it's nice to have it through him, so we don't have to be on the